welcome to the WCAT podcast.
I'm Jack Hunter, joined alongside by Reilly O'Neill, and we have a very special guest with us for episode 2 of WCAT Chats today. Member of the class of 2016, state champion, kicker, and punter, and now a part of the NFL. Welcome Blake Gillikin to the podcast. Blake, how you doing today?
Pretty good. How about you guys? Thanks for having me.
We're doing all right. So we got a lot to get into, but first in the notable news, you recently signed a contract with the New Orleans Saints after graduating from Penn State recently. So can you tell us what this last few days, and especially kind of going up to draft day and signing that contract with New Orleans, was like?
Yeah, it's really a lot of uncertainty, especially surrounding my position. Luckily, I had Harrison that I could talk to going through this a couple years before me, but there's really only 32 jobs for what I do. So it's really going about looking with my agent, my family, looking at teams to target, which teams might need a punter, which teams might be looking. So leading up to the draft, there was a lot of that. And then obviously being in touch with teams and kind of gauging their interests as well. So once we got to the day 3 of the draft where things start to pick up, we were kind of knew where we were at, and obviously just thankful to be picked up by a great organization. A lot of people in Atlanta probably don't like the fact that I'm now a Saint, but I'm just blessed to be in this position and maybe one day end up back in Atlanta.
Originally, I was a little concerned about it, but then it works perfectly for Falcons fans because now we have even more of a reason to cheer for the Saints to punt and go 3 and out and punt. So I think it's a great thing.
Yeah, that's what I tell people when I got a bunch of texts from Falcons fans like telling me go Falcons, go Birds, all this stuff, and I was like, look, if I'm on the field, then that means that the Falcons doing pretty good. So you hit it around the head there.
Yeah, exactly. And Blake, what did New Orleans tell you about what's to come? Obviously, the Saints aren't doing any off-season stuff because of the coronavirus, according to Sean Payton. So how do you think that's going to impact you in the next coming months?
Yeah, it's probably not going to change what I do a lot. I've been working out at home and finding field space around the city. So it hasn't really been a big change for me. We actually have had a couple meetings throughout this past week and then some meetings this upcoming week. But like you said, a lot of teams are taking the opportunity to do like almost like Zoom workouts with each other. So Coach Payton's been really, really gracious to the team and basically is telling the guys to focus on their families in this time, which is really a first-class move from a first-class coach. So just really excited to continue my training here in Atlanta, especially with a home now. So come late July, hopefully things open back up and we can get to training camp.
And have you had a chance to talk with Thomas Morstead yet? He's been with the Saints for about a decade now, and you're now right behind him in the depth chart. So have you guys had a chance to catch up and learn anything from him yet?
Yeah, we haven't really been in contact yet. I actually know the kicker, Will Lutz. Used to train with him in Atlanta for a little bit when I was younger. So obviously a pretty big age difference. So I don't remember it as well as I might if it was recent. But he reached out to me after the draft and congratulated me and welcomed me to the Saints and stuff. So kind of having that connection has been great. And like you said, just being familiar with the guys is going to be a big time because I know the assistant special teams coach from my time at Penn State. He was actually my coach for a year. So just being able to bounce ideas off him, and also very familiar with the special teams coordinator. Actually went to school with both of his daughters, so I'm up at Penn State. So it's been really great. I'm just getting to know those guys the last week and hopefully build that relationship even more.
So you talked about a few days kind of leading up to draft day, but, your pro day got canceled and kind of when this whole coronavirus thing hit in March, that's kind of the prime time for the combine and everything and when teams are really looking. So how did that change your preparation, having to go virtual basically and not being able to kind of talk in person with teams?
Yeah, it was really, really difficult. I wasn't the only one going through it because probably 80% of the pro days got canceled. And the other big thing is private workouts that teams will come in and put you through, and then local days that you can go and talk to teams and then work out for them at their facility. So that was a really big hit for a lot of people, not being able to kind of showcase themselves and extend themselves to more teams. But with those changes, I kind of had to go virtual, like you said, and me and my agent put together a virtual pro day, and we put together highlight films and stuff and sent that to teams. Just really use every connection I could to kind of get in front of them and show them what I could do, what I had done, and what I could do for their team.
Blake, you talked about some of the other guys you know already in New Orleans, but you're joining Lincoln back up with two former teammates, Tommy Stevens, Juwan Johnson from Penn State. Are you looking forward to teaming back up with those guys?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Both those guys actually transferred out for their 5th years, so haven't seen them in a year, and it's going to be great to kind of link back up with them. Me and Tommy were really close. He's actually one of the guys that during my freshman fall camp kind of started off rough, competing for the punting job, kind of a new system, obviously getting into college as a freshman. And he was the one guy that came over to me and kind of encouraged me and really turned my fall training camp around. So he's a good friend of mine, and really looking forward to spending more time with him and Juwan, and then obviously meeting my new teammates in New Orleans and getting started in training camp.
So speaking of those new teammates, it's okay to admit to us, are you going to be any starstruck when you go to New Orleans and you've got the big faces and the big names around you?
I mean, obviously, going down there, it's now my job. So, there might be some of that. Obviously, Drew Brees is kind of a god in the football world and had a great, illustrious career, one of the best quarterbacks of all time. But I think it's just a great opportunity to learn from guys who have been in this position for so long, and not only had success on the field, but made an impact in the community, and obviously raised great families and doing great things in terms of outreach and stuff like that. You've seen it with Harrison and Kansas City, and just having those kind of resources on a team, the guys that are veterans, is something that you can really tap into and can be really impactful for a young rookie.
So rewind the clock a few years back to your Westminster days before we kind of hit on the pinnacle of your Westminster career. So let's first start. How did you begin kicking, and what was your first interaction with Coach Sturniolo?
Wow. When I began kicking, that was a long time ago. That's probably 12 years ago I started kicking. Whenever I started playing football was when I was just the guy who could somehow kick the ball farther than anybody else. So that's kind of how they chose kickers back then. And never really took it seriously until probably my freshman year of high school. I really want to be a field goal kicker, to be honest with you, because I love scoring points. Thought that was pretty cool. But then obviously had great kickers during my time in high school. So was really not called upon to do those things until my senior year. And then getting to varsity as a sophomore, meeting Coach Sturniolo, had to start as a punter. So, and that's kind of when I started to take that up and started to really fall in love with punting. Just the kind of the intricacies and the difficulty that came with it. So kind of just took that and ran with it, and obviously was able to improve to the point where got some interest from colleges, and just really fortunate to have a coach and Coach Sturniolo that pushed me throughout my high school career, and then obviously stayed in touch with me throughout, just being supportive. And any of the guys that left and went to college would say the same. I know he had a great relationship with Harrison, and I continue to have a great relationship with him. Actually had lunch with him back in February, I believe. So just really, really special to have someone like him at school. And I could tell you stories for days about him.
And around what age did you realize you really had the talent to make it to the next level?
I'm not sure if I ever really realized it. I think my dad always tells me a story of Coach Wild coming to him after sophomore year training camp down in Vero Beach. What an experience. I have to start with that. But and he told my dad that he thought I had a legitimate shot to play at the next level. I never really believed that. And I think once I played my junior season and then went to a national kicking competition and kind of figured out that I belonged with some of the top guys in the country. And then really thankful to just get some opportunities to play in college. A lot of guys are good enough and then just don't have the exposure, don't have the connections to get those opportunities. So another guy that I'm really thankful for is Coach Wild and the connections he has and the relationships he's built over the years.
So you mentioned about your current relationship with Harrison Butker, but Butker being a few years older than you, class of 2013, what was your relationship like when you were in high school and he was kind of in the tail end of his high school career?
Yeah, I was a kicker on the 9th grade team and he was a kicker on varsity going to Georgia Tech. We played the same position on the soccer team. I was clearly his backup as a freshman, and he was obviously the star. So it was great being able to use him as a role model. A lot of guys did, and Coach Snyder still tells stories to this day about him and kind of the leadership that he brought to the table and the example that he set. So it wasn't we had a super intimate relationship in high school, but just be able to have someone like that as I was getting older and as I was kind of being molded, and I think it was really great to obviously know him back then and then continue that relationship until now. Had a great talk with him earlier on in this process for a while on the phone, and just got a bunch of great insight about the process. And it's just really valuable to have a guy in that position that I can look up to.
So 2015 wasn't your first rodeo with the state championship. 9th grade winning the soccer state championship as Harrison Butker's backup. What was that experience like for you, and how did that help you transition to kind of winning the state championship in football in 2015?
Yeah, that the run they went on was pretty incredible. As a freshman, I was fortunate enough to travel with the team after playing with JV early in the season. So I still remember perfectly how he scored the goal in the state championship, and I believe it's 2013. And his celebration running by the bench, I'll never forget that. And then obviously the rivalry going on in soccer with Calhoun after that, and then meeting them in the semifinals of the state playoffs in football. I think just watching him and how he led really helped some of those guys as we took it down the road with soccer, and then especially with the 2015 football state championship. I mean, the soccer team wasn't really underdogs often, but I think the football team, we were epitome of the underdog, and just being able to obviously take that mentality on the road and with a great group of seniors and obviously great support staff or great supporting cast with our juniors and sophomores and some freshmen even. So I think just having that experience is really special for me, and to get it in football, probably not the sport that I expected to win a state championship in, but I'll cherish that day and those couple of moments for the rest of my life for sure.
So Blake, going from your established high school career where you won multiple state championships and you set all kinds of Westminster records, and then you went on to be a starter at Penn State for 4 years, I'm interested because I think we'll have a lot of listeners who are currently playing in high school or off to play at college, maybe Division I. So what would you say is the biggest difference between high school and college ball that you saw, and what advice would you give to those athletes going to the next level?
Yeah, it's very different. I think a lot of guys like to say that the pace of play is different, which is true. I'm not sure I really experienced that for my position, but I'd say the biggest transition for me and a lot of guys is managing your time once you're living on your own, because what tends to happen is when you're at home with your parents and you're in high school, you basically have your routine where either you drive yourself or you get dropped off at school. You go to school, class, then you go to practice, come home, they make dinner, do your homework, go to bed. And college is a lot different. Of course, you have that kind of schedule, but you're pretty much accountable for everything. So if you want to stay up till 3 a.m. playing video games, no one's stopping you, no one's yelling at you to stop. But in reality, you have a 7 a.m. practice the next morning. So if you show up to that tired, you might not get a shot on the field. So I'd probably say that's the biggest transition. And I think the thing about Westminster is it prepares you to kind of tackle those challenges, and on top of succeeding in the classroom, just being able to manage your time in an effective way. So nothing to really panic about or anything like that, but it's just kind of a form of discipline that you need to deal with once you get to college.
So before we kind of get into the state championship game itself, one of the most historic Westminster football games of all time, a lot of people forget about the playoff run going up to the state championship, playing four straight road games to get to the state championship. Can you just kind of talk about generally the long road trips, the adversity, the atmospheres, just kind of the experience that was?
Yeah, I kind of got chills you talking about it. Yeah, I've thought about that. I mean, my family had a conversation at our dinner table like a week ago about that. I remember it started in Southeast Georgia, Southeast Bullock, and didn't really know what to expect going down there. I know we took care of business in the game, but Zay slept on my shoulder the whole way back. I see Coach Searle just commented, "Juice." Yeah, Juice was there. They always wanted to bring the juice. That was their motto. They didn't bring a lot that night, but I know Zay slept on my shoulder pretty much the whole way home. So, I mean, he deserved it because he played a heck of a game. But, yeah, started in Southeast Bullock, and then not sure a lot of us expected to beat Callaway. They were a great team, a bunch of D1 guys. Just kind of pulled it out. My brother had a great game that game, actually. So that kind of launched us in the quarterfinals, I guess. And then took care of business fine in the quarterfinals. But I think the biggest game of the playoffs was probably that semifinal game against Cedar Grove. I mean, I couldn't even count on both my hands how many D1 offers, guys that had D1 offers on that team. I remember the 330-pound offensive lineman doing a cartwheel out of their tunnel, and just thinking, what are we doing here? It was freezing cold. So actually the Penn State coaches were there, so a little extra pressure for me. Having not even signed yet. Obviously they probably were going to pull my offer, but and then we started the game. I remember the first 3 plays of the game I remember almost perfectly, and I think Zay got decapitated like twice. So obviously we're punting after that, and then the fake punt. Rip off like a 40-yard carry, Harrison Jones, and that kind of springboarded us, kind of gave us confidence the rest of the game. I think we really controlled field position, which was really, really huge. I remember Zay had a punt return to like their 5-yard line, which obviously gave our offense a great opportunity to score. And obviously that led to the state championship, which is like you said, probably one of my fondest memories.
So before we kind of get to that state championship, there are some plays from your senior year or from your junior year that we got to kind of get your take on. So first, the week before Cedar Grove, Adairsville, school record 56-yard field goal. What are your thoughts going out to attempt that field goal, and your reaction when you saw it go through the uprights?
Yeah, I'll start it by I'll preface this statement. I think going into the playoffs, I was like 7 for 16 on field goals, which you don't need me a mathematician, but that's not very good. But I think the start of the playoffs, I made a couple. I think it was like 4 for 4 at that point in the playoffs on field goals. So I went out there with a lot of confidence. And a lot of people don't remember this, but it started off as a 51-yard field goal. Adairsville called a timeout to ice me going into halftime. And then so I basically took a practice kick, missed wide left by a ton. So then line up for the second try from 51 after the timeout. And our left wing, Andy Capper, false started. So and what I tell the snapper is once he blows the whistle, you snap it so I can take another practice kick, right? Missed that one wide left too. So the confidence kind of started dwindling away, I guess. So I moved back to 56, but you can see on the video of the game, I kind of looked to the sideline and told told coach to keep the offense off the field because I had 100% confidence I was going to make that kick. It was a great snap, Peter Rooney, great hold by Keller. Probably still the best holder I've ever seen, better than me, Keller Harper. So give him a nice shout out here. But yeah, to see it hit the back stanchion was pretty nerve wracking because I'm not sure if it hit the crossbar or not. But yeah, it was a great feeling celebrating with the guys, and obviously we were up by a ton by that point. I think it was like 31-7, but just be able to have that and have the field goal record over Harrison Bucker, which is something he can never get back.
So the year before, you guys are playing Calhoun in the playoffs, and before we hit on a big-time onside kick, you're playing Calhoun. Coach Sturniolo described it as you guys weren't going to win the game, but you're just trying to do an onside kick. Coach Sturniolo swears this is the only time he's seen a negative onside kick, and you kicked the ball backwards, a net loss of 17 yards. So how does that happen? What went into that kick?
Yeah, this took a turn for the worse. So basically there's two ways to do an onside kick. So basically you can either lay it on the ground almost and run up straight on and kick it with your toe, or you can kick it like a field goal from the side. So I was kind of playing around with it my junior year, not really sure what I was going to do. So I ended up doing the one where you kick it straight on with your toe. And unfortunately, like big moment, I kind of kicked it with the outside of my foot. So it put this this right-hand spin on the ball. And it ended up going about 5 yards and then just took a direct turn right and rolled about, 17 yards behind me?
Mm-hmm.
That might be one of my most embarrassing sports moments of all time. But luckily, I got to redeem myself in the Georgia Dome. So that onside kick worked out. And I think it was like a net gain of 60 yards. So I kind of cut my losses there and learned from it and changed my form. And that never happened again, thankfully.
And speaking of the Georgia Dome, and now we're going to move into the state championship, Coach Sturniolo was on the record telling us that we would not have won that game without Blake. And you had 3 punts that averaged at 61.7 yards per punt. You had a 32-yarder, a 21-yarder, and a 52-yarder field goal. And then you had 6 kickoffs, all for touchbacks. Do you think that was the best game you've ever kicked in your life?
Yeah, hands down. I think it's, for any specialist, it's the easiest playing in a dome because there's no wind, there's no weather, there's nothing. So you go into the game with 100% confidence in yourself. I actually went down to the dome on Thursday before the state championship with Sterno. I rode in this car. I'm not sure if it was legal or not, but I'll say it now. Me and him rode down because he has connection with the Falcons because he might still be the statistician, don't know. But yeah, so he had connections, and we got on the field. Half the field was like the molds for the end zones for all the bowl games that are being played there. So like, I'm not sure how he even got allowed on the field, but we were out there. So yeah, it was nice being able to kind of have that familiarity with the surroundings, because the first time you walk in there, you look up and it's it's the biggest thing you ever seen. So just your adrenaline's pumping and all that stuff. And I'm just thankful I didn't shank anything in the state championship, to be honest with you, because my heart was racing every time I went out there. And none of us had ever played in a venue like that, historic, and all the fans and kind of just the drama of the day. So I'm grateful for all the coaching that and all the preparation I had going into that, and obviously was able to help the team out as best I could.
So you guys lost to Blessed Trinity earlier in that 2015 season. So what was the mindset going into a game? Blessed Trinity, the heavy favorites, they had beaten you guys already. What was the mindset like?
Yeah, I'm not sure there was ever like any good blood between us and Blessed Trinity. It was kind of, I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but it was just not good blood. So I think we went into it knowing that we could beat them. It wasn't going to come easy. Obviously, we had some things go our way, but losing at home to a team that you face in the state championship isn't ideal. but I think we'd probably rather play them than Calhoun. I want to say they beat Calhoun in the semifinals in a slugfest. Like I think it was like 12-10 or something. So I think we were pretty thankful that we weren't playing Calhoun again for the second straight year. But it would have been a lot different not playing up at Calhoun with the lights going out and all this crap. So, so long story short, I think playing Blessed Trinity early in the year was good for us and our confidence, and kind of gave our coaches a tell on what they were going to do.
And obviously being down big at one point, 24-9, how was the team reacting? How did you guys sort of mesh together, come onto the field, and stage the epic comeback that we all witnessed?
Yeah, I think it's what kind of we were doing all year, especially in those last 7 games we're on the road. Just not losing faith in each other. I think at one point, I'm gonna say it's not 100% true, because at one point I think my brother was on the sideline and was just like, "Yeah, we're probably not gonna win this game." So not everybody had supreme confidence in the fact we get it done. But obviously going into the fourth quarter, being down, 15 points, I think 14 points. I know there's people who left the stadium, and we just kept fighting, kept grinding. Had some things go our way, if you look at the film of the onside kick, there's really no reason why we should have gotten the ball. But it just kind of ended up that way, and we capitalized on all their mistakes and took advantage of every opportunity we got.
So going to that onside kick, Watson Jackson, like the career play, falling on the ball. There's just this big dog pile. There's like 30 seconds of suspense. No one knows what's going on. When did you realize that Westminster might actually have the football?
I think I actually walked to the sideline because I was like, "Oh, they got the ball. Like, this is over." But I think it was Will Dameron who stood up out of the pile and started jumping with his arm in the air, and I was like, "There's no way he got the ball." I think it wasn't until after, and I watched the replay of the game, that I actually figured out how he actually got it. Watson was the last guy in the pile, and I want to say it was Chase Williams who was the guy who dove on it first, and Watson somehow wrestled away from Chase, which is pretty incredible because there were 8 guys on the ground and the guy who jumps in last gets the ball. But yeah, all-time career play for him. Really a legendary play for sure.
And after Watson fell on the ball, you guys still had to score. Zay Malcolm ran it down the field and put sits on the board. But correct me if I'm wrong, you had to go out and nail that PAT. What's the pressure like when you have to go out there and tie the game up after staging such an incredible comeback and force it into overtime?
Yeah, I think at one point me and my brother watched the game together. A couple years later, probably. We were in college, and we were watching the exact extra point you're talking about. And he was like, "If you would miss this extra point, I probably would never have talked to you again." I don't think I missed an extra point all year, but that would have been a heck of a time to miss one. So just really glad that I think my get off time kind of sped up a little bit. Didn't want it blocked. I don't think I struck it the best, but if it goes through, it goes through. Point's a point.
So going before the game a little bit, I was in 8th grade at the time, and I think, Reilly, you were in 6th grade, right? And that was the most spirited I've ever seen Westminster about a sporting event. So coming from the player side, you guys getting police escorted to the Dome with all the Westminster community there cheering you on at the back tennis courts. I mean, what was that whole experience like with the pep rally and the flags and everyone waving? I mean, that was surreal for me, but what was it like for you?
Yeah, surreal really is that's the right word for it. Just seeing the outpouring of support throughout that day, and obviously culminated in the late evening with the win was really awesome. Mm-hmm. I think the coolest thing was the police escort. I'd never had one of those before, and in college you kind of get it's kind of like a commonplace because everywhere you go is with the police escort. But kind of being in high school and being in that position was it was pretty weird, to be honest with you, because like cars were getting out of the way of the police cars, and you were like flying by in the HOV lane, and it was just pretty odd. And you kind of feel like the big man on campus when you're flying by with the police escort. But I guess that's what you got to do to get to the George Dome for your big day. But yeah, just seeing the Westminster community come together from the pre-firsters to the seniors for the pep rally, and then lining the street towards the gate is a scene I'll never forget. Just looking out the bus window, and then it kind of I can't speak right now, but you kind of got to flip a switch once you leave that area and you see all those people. You kind of got to lock in. So, and then I don't know if a lot of people know this, but we had some bus trouble, not only that year but the year before, getting to games in the playoffs. So we were just praying that nothing else happened to kind of postpone the inevitable and get to the Georgia Dome on time.
So now transitioning to your time at Penn State. So you played pretty much immediately. So can you tell me your coach, James Franklin, one of the most colorful coaches in college football, one of the most well-known coaches, what is it like playing for him and also being a captain on a team with him as the coach this year?
Yeah, I think colorful is the right word. He's obviously has a big personality, and I'd say the one thing about Coach Franklin is he truly cares about the players and his players, and he really treats them like his sons. And I think kind of the family atmosphere was what drew me to Penn State, was really similar to what we had at Westminster. And the fact about Coach Franklin is he really cares about not only the players but the players' families as well. So whenever you see my mom, he gave her a big hug. Loves my mom. The same way with a lot of the players' families. So just kind of really created that atmosphere that draws you together in the locker room, and really special to be a captain, just being able to interact with him almost daily and kind of get feedback from him as well about what he'd like to see on the team, and provide him with whatever I thought would help our team win and help us be successful. So playing for a man like that, and then the many coordinators I had really helped me get through college and grow as a man as well.
And speaking of family, your brother Tyler was a long snapper for Northwestern while you were a punter at Penn State. So you had a few matchups with him. What was the experience like when your family all got together and you got to play against Tyler at Northwestern?
Yeah, it honestly, it sucked because we only played once because we were on different sides of different divisions, I guess. And so we played one time my sophomore year in Evanston at Northwestern. And yeah, that's probably one of the days of my life I'll remember pretty vividly. Just being able to share the field with him, seeing him succeed, all the hard work he put in. I want to say that was his first year as a starter, so just kind of being there to experience that was great. He had a great game, and obviously it was great to get the win. But I don't think I'll remember the win in 20 years. I'll remember just spending time with him and my family before the game, after the game, and just being able to share that experience with a brother. And a lot of people can't say they've been able to do that.
And Blake, what was y'all's relationship like? How did you guys motivate each other going through Westminster and then on to college ball?
Yeah, we were super competitive like our entire life. And not only on the field, but also in the classroom. We compete for test scores and grades and SAT, ACT, you name it. We were competing at it. So that really pushed both of us to kind of be the best version of ourselves. My dad always told us that it's never okay to root against your twin brother. So it was always really special to see him succeed. And he's still doing it. He's still got a year to play, starting med school in the fall. So I'm not sure the last person to start med school and still keep playing football at the same time in college. But I'm really proud of what he's doing, the man he's become, and it's been great to kind of spend time with him over the last couple weeks.
And Jack mentioned earlier that you were named a captain for your senior season at Penn State. What was that feeling like when you finally got to be named a captain and especially as a punter, a special teams guy, to be a captain? How did that make you feel?
Yeah, just being a captain at a program like Penn State is a huge honor, and that's kind of how I approached it. And my first couple of years at Penn State, I really wanted to gain respect of the guys through how I worked, how I handled myself in the classroom, on the field, in the community. So when it came time later in my career that people felt confident to have me as a captain. And I think what I said earlier, just it was an honor and something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. Being able to lead guys and walk out there for coin tosses and kind of be the leaders of the program and the connection between the players and the coaches. And yeah, just really thankful to be in that position, both my junior and senior year. But there's guys that I was captain with that I'll have that relationship with for the rest of my life. And that's really special about college football is the relationships you get to form and see grow and obviously continue for many years to come.
So Blake, can you tell us what lessons and how Penn State helped you, up to this point in your professional career? You mentioned how important like the culture and the family was at Penn State, and what values did Penn State give you that are going to help you in your professional career?
Yeah, I think I know it's a lot of guys at Penn State think it's corny, but we have 4 core values, and they're on the wall. They're branded everywhere in our facility. The first core value is positive attitude. The second one's great work ethic. The third is compete in everything you do, and the fourth is must be willing to sacrifice. So those 4 things are really what you need to do to be successful at anything in life, and that's how it was really preached to us at Penn State. If you don't show up to anything with a positive attitude, you're really putting yourself at a disadvantage because your attitude and a lot of things is everything. And then obviously moving on, your work ethic is what determines what you're going to get out of whatever you're doing. The third one, compete in everything you do, which is taken very seriously of a Penn State. So in the classroom is a big deal. Competing in everything you do includes service in the community, not just on the field. And the fourth one really is the capstone of the 4, which is sacrifice. Because if you're not willing to sacrifice at all, if you're going about things and you only have yourself in mind, then nothing's going to get done for the team. And in reality, football is a team sport, just like a lot of things in life. And I think just playing football in college and having that experience will really help me with people and with interactions for the rest of my life.
And Blake, you obviously have to exemplify those traits being in a leadership position like captain for the Lions. How did your parents and coaches sort of shape you as a leader growing up and becoming a captain at Penn State?
Yeah, my parents, I probably don't thank them enough for everything they did for me. I mean, they really just taught me everything I knew to that point, and combined with coaches I had at Westminster. I mean, I remember Coach Jones back in 8th grade. People were terrified of Coach Jones. I mean, people loved 7th grade football was great until you got to 8th grade, and then Coach Jones was there. But Coach Jones is honestly probably one of the best coaches I ever had. I still remember his favorite Bible quote was Galatians 6:7-8, which basically said you reap what you sow. And that really connected with me, especially with the core values of Penn State, because if you don't know what that means, it basically means whatever you put in, you're going to get out. So just like basically a farmer. So if you water the seed, you plant the seed, you water the seed, you nurture the seed, someone's going to grow from it. And that kind of taught me that work ethic was paramount in anything you did, especially at a school like Westminster where academics were tough, sports were tough. You're competing for jobs. So that kind of stuck with me throughout my career. And then obviously have all good things to say about my other coaches throughout my time at Westminster. Coach Romberg was always there for me and continues to be there for me. Love going back to see him. Coach Wild, Coach Malloy, Coach Schneider. The list kind of goes on. And just really thankful to have attended a school like Westminster. And that's kind of led me to where I am today.
And so before we kind of wrap things up here, so you obviously were a big student in the classroom, Big Ten honor rolls, academic All-American. How did Westminster and the teachers at Westminster help shape you to become not only just a great athlete in college, but a great student as well?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible coming from Westminster. It just put me at such an advantage when I entered a college classroom. I think the biggest thing for me is how few people really know how to write well. And that's really what Westminster taught me through. English wasn't my favorite subject. I was really more of a math and science person, so that's really what I enjoyed. But the English department really prepared me for being able to write effectively, communicate effectively, and ultimately that's kind of how you're successful in college. I think if you're not able to communicate, not able to communicate with your classmates, then ultimately your teammates on the field, off the field, it makes it really difficult to be successful. So I'd say that's probably the biggest thing that Westminster did for me, and just really everything. It's kind of hard to pick things out. The whole experience from athletics to academics and emphasizing community service, and Jan term was really special for me because obviously I was pretty new to it when it came out. I think it came out my junior year, I want to say. So you guys are pretty lucky with that. But yeah, Jan term's a really special thing that a lot of people around the country and guys that I played with don't get that opportunity. Kind of taking an intensive course for a couple weeks and taking a break from school kind of prepared me for different courses, different layouts that got thrown on me at Penn State. So really the whole experience was really just great for me to kind of jumpstart my college career. And I'll be forever thankful for everyone I met at Westminster and continue a lot of those relationships on today.
So you talked about a lot of your coaches at Westminster that were really impactful. Do you have a few favorite teachers in mind that you think really taught you a lot or you really liked at Westminster?
Man, Coach Searle was my dog at Westminster. I see him smiling there. I'd probably say one of my favorite teachers at Westminster was I don't know if she's a doctor or not. So I don't want to say she's not a doctor. She's a doctor, but I think her name was Miss Merchant. And don't ask me to say her first name because I can never pronounce it. So Miss Merchant was my BC calculus teacher, which was like the most intimidating class of all time. So there's like a bunch of choices for math your senior year, and I decided to take BC calculus for God knows what reason. And she really helped me a lot in that class, and it was like probably the most grueling class I've ever taken. And ultimately, she told us at the end of the year she was giving us harder problems than the BC calculus AP exam was going to give us. And she was basically like, if you don't get a 5 on the AP exam, then I failed you. So I went throughout the semester really struggling and trying to do my best, and ultimately got a 5 on the AP exam, despite like leaving 2 questions blank. I don't know how that happened, but she was always just kind of a joy to be around, bottom of Campbell. And whenever there's like a security question on whatever, she's like my favorite teacher. So just like to give her a shout out, and had great experiences with a lot of teachers at my days in Westminster. And it's great to kind of have relationships like that in high school, because that's what it takes to be successful in college. If you don't have a relationship with your professors and you don't have an open line of communication, then it's sometimes hard to be successful. So that was really meaningful throughout my time back in high school.
And Blake, it's been fun to have you on and look back and relive some of these Westminster memories. But looking ahead to the future, what does that look like for you, and what are your hopes heading forward before we close out?
Yeah, I just basically I wanted a shot, and I got a shot, which is great. So going to New Orleans against a veteran who's getting paid a lot of money, and who knows what that has in store. I'm just really looking forward to add value to the organization any way that I can, and if I can obviously make the Saints, that'd be awesome. But Harrison's first stop wasn't his last stop either. So he was in a great competition with Graham Gano and the Panthers, and probably was neck and neck with him, and they just decided to keep on the practice squad, and then boom, sign him to the Chiefs, and kind of the rest is history, getting paid $5 million a year now. So it's pretty special for our position and the paths that you sometimes have to take to make it in the league. But I'm just looking forward to starting out on the right foot and seeing what happens.
All right, Blake. Well, that's all we have for you today. We want to say thank you for joining us. And once again, congratulations on now being the second active player in the NFL and the second active player in the NFL from the KickerU tradition at Westminster.
Yeah, KickerU, shout out. I punted with one on today. We still got it going.
Wesselman or Baqueta?
Wesselman. Yeah, I see him all the time.
So we're going to go quick off track here. Just one last question. So obviously the kickers today, Alex Baqueta, Connor Wesselman, it goes very deep. So can you talk about you coming back and working with some of the kickers and punters and your relationship with them right now?
Yeah, I mean, I talk to Connor probably every week. Obviously he's getting down to the time where trying to get a college look, and that's kind of where you're at going into your senior year. So just trying to help him out as best I can. I don't know everything in the world, but if I can help him out with one thing every day that I work with him, I consider that a victory. So just really excited to see where those guys kind of head. I know there's a lot. I mean, we got guys in college now, Charlie, Alex out at Stanford, then a bunch of good kids in high school. So just really excited to see kind of the KickerU tradition grow, which has been awesome, kind of sitting back from it. It kind of started when I was in high school. We kind of coined that phrase my senior year, and it kind of stuck, which was awesome. And, those guys really have an opportunity to be in the same position I was, Harrison was, and now Charlie and Alex, with the preparation they've put in, and then just Coach Sturniolo pushed them to be the best players that they can be. So I'm really excited for those guys. I let them know that whenever they have any questions or they need anything, that my phone's always I got my phone around me all the time. So I'll be on a phone call or a text message or anything. I'm just really looking forward to supporting those guys through their careers, and I know Harrison's doing the same, and as well as some of the guys in college right now.
Speaking of Harrison, I'm sure you were rooting for the Chiefs in that Super Bowl.
100%.
All right, Blake, thank you for joining us. This has been Blake Gillikin, class of 2016, a state champion kicker and punter for the Westminster Wildcats. And after a great 4-year career at Penn State, he is now a member of the New Orleans Saints. Blake, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.
And we will see you guys soon on episode 3 of WCAT Chats. We're going to have a great episode. I mean, it's going to be hard to top Blake Gillikin, but we'll at least try. And we'll see you guys next time.